Hi guys, welcome to the J&J Boxing Podcast. I'm here with Jordan. We're gonna just talk about a roundup of the week, what's happened. It's been a good month, so we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, I think the only rightful place to start is Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. We were talking about how Francis Ngannou better not come out as a southpaw if he wants to be competitive. That's what we were saying. He
Yeah,
better
yeah,
not
yeah.
try no southpaw stuff against Joshua. And lo and behold, he tried the southpaw stuff against Joshua, and
And
he
that was
just
his
got hit
downfall.
straight down the pipe. Like,
Exactly.
what are your thoughts on all that, man?
So obviously I was very confident that Josh will get the job done, which he did, but I put my hands up. I didn't expect it to be 2 rounds. I was very happy with that performance. Best performance. Francis Ngannou, I feel like, was the victim of his own success. I think in his mind, he thought because the consensus number one at the time was Tyson Fury, if I could do that to Fury, then I can do it to every heavyweight. I didn't think he realized styles make fights, and Fury's not a big puncher. I think he got it's similar to the Joe Joyce thing. They get gassed over their chins. Oh, I've never been hurt. I've never been dropped. This, that. And I just thought him and his trainer was setting him up for failure, really. Just talking crazy nonsense in the fight week, saying this, saying that. Oh, if Fury and Joshua came to the UFC, this is not the UFC, it's boxing. I do feel like he was overlooking it a little bit. So to be honest with you, I was even happy that he did that because it made the fight easier. And Ngannou turned southpaw straight away. And like we both said, if you do that, the straight right hand is coming straight down the pipe, which it did.
Yeah, I mean, I was under the opinion that if Joshua boxed, which I thought he probably would, he would possibly knock out Ngannou without even trying. And it looked like
Yeah,
that. He was just boxing. And it's one of those ones where sometimes if you try and force the knockout, it doesn't come. But when you just box, it comes when you least expect it. And it flows like poetry. And that's what it was. Joshua was just getting into his boxing and he did it. And then as soon as Ngannou turned southpaw, and because Joshua is actually quite good against southpaws, you take Usyk out of the equation because he's a unique type of fighter, once in a generation type of fighter. So everyone's going to struggle against Usyk. I mean, who has had an easy fight against Usyk?
mm,
So take Usyk out of the picture. You have Charles Martin, you have Otto Wallin, you have back in the amateurs, Camarel. Um, Joshua typically does well against southpaws. So to come up against a crude, raw guy who's learning the trade in his second fight, and he's going to try and turn southpaw, that's only going to end one way. And Joshua put that right hand straight down the pipe. And truth be told, Francis Ngannou had a bit of a deer in the headlights look. It was almost like the Fury fight was what it was, and this fight was welcome to boxing. And
yeah.
that's it. That's what happened. He got knocked out, and I would be surprised if we see Francis Ngannou in a boxing ring again. He made his money. He cashed out of the game. I've had more fights than him, but he's made more money than I'm ever going to make in boxing. So credit to him for that. But at the end of the day, this is boxing, and this is boxing almost ran the risk of turning into a bit of a circus act. And if anything, Joshua did a favor for boxing, and
100%. I
um,
think people were saying before what a mess Tyson Fury made. If Francis Ngannou did that to Tyson Fury, then did let's say he did the same to Joshua, boxing's in the mud because it already was. UFC fans, MMA fans were just basically getting confident, saying this guy can come over, do this, do that. And Joshua had to clear up Fury's mess, and he more than did that. I think that's a warning to all these MMA fighters. Stay in your lane, otherwise you'll get hurt. And this is
yeah,
not someone that's had a fragile chin in the UFC MMA. I've never seen Francis Ngannou rocked ever with head kicks or anything. So yeah, it's a big statement, 100%. I think it was needed. And I think it shows that although styles make fights, there's a difference between struggling with someone and getting put down by someone. Fury didn't just struggle with Ngannou. I thought Fury won the fight, but in many people's eyes, he lost that fight. He got dropped, he got hurt, he got bullied, he got thrown around the ring by someone who's only had one fight. It is just amazing how Fury even got dropped by that. So Yeah, I think that's a big statement. I'm happy it got done. I think that was a perfect fight as well. Wilder obviously fell through due to Wilder losing, so that was the next best thing. And I actually think that's a better fight for Joshua than Wilder because it's you're crossing over to the US market. Ngannou's a bigger name than Wilder, and you're hitting both markets, the US, the UFC market, and the casuals probably rated Ngannou more than Wilder did. So you're literally capturing all three markets at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose there's not a million things to talk about with regards to Joshua versus Ngannou because of how decisive it was. But one thing I want to talk about is moving to the side of that topic. Did you see Fury's face when Joshua won that?
Yeah,
What's
saw
your
that.
take on that?
I think Fury was genuinely baffled. I think he was baffled how easily Ngannou went down, and maybe he's thinking, shit, like I hit him with elbows and he didn't even move. I think he was more baffled than shocked. I think he was just like, I think he didn't know how to act. He wasn't expecting that definitely because Ngannou went down heavy. That's the worst knockout I've ever seen live. That's the
And
worst knockout I've ever seen live. So I just think Fury was shocked, and I think he genuinely now respects Joshua as a heavyweight because I don't think he did before. But he's like, okay, shit, this guy's done it to all my opponents now. Like, what am I doing wrong that he's doing right?
yeah, and the other thing you have to look at is the fact that maybe Fury's mask came off. If it, because at the end of the day, Tyson Fury likes to walk around, give a lot of bravado, and say that you big dosser, you silly sausage, and all I'm the Gypsy King. But everyone has that bravado of who they are when they're out in front of other people. But at the end of the day, when you're on your own, that's who you really are, in my opinion. And I think that Fury for a second dropped the mask, and I think he showed his humanity there.
I think he's always had that mask on though. You see little things like Tyson Fury always on his tiptoes when he takes pictures with other boxers.
Yeah,
He's a very insecure man, but he's lucky that he can speak, so it masks his insecurities. But like you said, you saw his face after the fight. He's a very insecure man, Tyson Fury.
I mean, yeah, the tiptoes with pictures. Listen, if I was his height, I would never feel the need to go on my tiptoes, man. Yeah, you're tall as it
Yeah,
is, man.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but you know, one thing I'll be very interested in is to see Joshua and Fury face to face if they do fight, because I don't think there's going to be much of a height difference there. Um, I think that Fury, he always likes to do the tiptoes and all of that stuff, a bit almost Vladimir Klitschko-esque.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but in my opinion, Fury's probably about anywhere from 6'7" to not even 6'8", because I
I don't
saw
think
him
he's
with
6'8" because
Price.
I've yeah, exactly. I was gonna say I've seen him with David Price, and David Price was the same height, even a bit taller. So I think he's around 6'7.5". He's the same height as Wilder.
Yeah, there was about a quarter of an
There,
inch in it or
yeah,
something
so
like that.
about 6'7", 6'7.5" at best. So the height is not gonna be it's not gonna be 3 inches, no way. Reach, I think Fury's got a bit of a longer reach to be honest with you, but I don't think it's gonna be anything out of the ordinary. Because don't forget in the Ngannou fight, Ngannou managed to reach through before Fury did Ngannou. So the reach won't be a big factor.
No, and yeah, just to sort of touch on it, I think Fury definitely showed his apprehension, and he definitely showed a bit of humanity and a little bit of fear and discomfort when he saw the way that Joshua dispatched of Francis Ngannou, which follows a similar ilk to Otto Wallin, Kevin Johnson, and there may be some other common opponents as well. Um, Moving on from that, I want to talk about Zhang versus Joseph Parker. You were right, I was wrong. What is it that you saw leading into the fight that unfolded?
Do you know what it is? I really rate Zhang as a heavyweight, but styles make fights. I remember I told you about the Jerry Forrest fight. I can't take that out of my head. I know he was sick. I know he got ill, but apparently, but it's like I can't take that out of my head to be honest with you. Yeah, he looked like he was gonna die in the ring, Zhang against Jerry Forrest. He looked terrible, and he was lucky that it wasn't with a heavyweight that could punch. Like I just took that into consideration. I know what he did to Joyce. But Joyce was in front of you. He wasn't a small guy that could move around the ring. Joyce was a lamppost. Zhang could hit it for days. I just saw Joseph Parker being too elusive. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah. I think what it was is that I mean I saw the fight playing out the way it played out. I just got the result wrong. I thought that Zhili Zhang would be center ring, sort of like that old line in the middle of the ring. If you give him a chance, then he'll show you what he can do, and he did. But it wasn't enough. And I think the fact that Parker was able to maneuver himself around the ring and do just enough. You see, Parker has picked up some impressive wins of late, but he's not looked devastating and he's not dominated. He's just done enough. And I think Parker um, I mean, it might sound controversial, but I still think Parker's ceiling is somewhat similar to before these previous two
Yeah,
fights.
so do I. So do I.
Um,
So do I.
I think that these fights suited him to the ground. I think he does well against punches for whatever reason. And I think that he knows how to nick a fight, nick the rounds without dominating. Like, he doesn't, at the top level, he's never won in dominating fashion. So I think that with Joseph Parker, what he's done here is he knows how he's had two styles that kind of suit him. Deontay Wilder was obviously slow as molasses. Not He was actually quite slow in that fight, truth be told. And also with Deontay Wilder, he wasn't throwing much. He was just looking for the one punch. Parker's quick enough to be evasive
To yeah, to
of it,
avoid that right hand, exactly
and
that.
doing just enough to nick those rounds. And then with Zhili Zhang, you have a fighter who really needs you to be right in front of him, either in his range, his punch range, or standing in front of him. And Parker knew to just get in and get out, and he did just about enough. Zhili Zhang is a puncher in the truest in the Zhili Zhang is
Truest,
a
yeah,
puncher in the
yeah.
truest definition. He's the truest definition of a puncher. But his problem is his gas tank, and I think that Zhili Zhang, it's going to be one of those situations where if you are about your business, top five, I'm talking, you're going to beat him. But anything below that, and even people in the top five on his day, he can get you. But I think Zhili Zhang also, in the same breath, is a fighter who is going to fade out. Was he 41 now? I
40,
think he's
yeah,
got
40,
2 years
41.
maximum, if pushing it, two
If
years at
that,
this
yeah.
level. So I think Zhili Zhang for now. If I was Zhili Zhang, which we'll probably talk about next, if you're happy with that, should go and fight Deontay Wilder for some marbles. And if he can beat Wilder, cash out. Just don't even try and fight a contender. Just try and cash out, get a voluntary shot, maybe in
Yeah.
China or something like that, or try and make something big, and then whatever happens, happens. But if you don't mind us talking about Zhang Wilder next, because it kind of flows in, how would you see that fight? Because that's intriguing for me.
Do you know what? This is genuinely a 50-50. I've been going back and forward, but you know with me, I always go with my gut. I think Wilder wins by knockout. I think Zhang hurts Wilder and drops him early, but Wilder's got a good chin for his size. I think people underestimate his chin. I think we've seen after 5, 6 rounds, Zhang is just basically walking on you, taking shots on the gloves. One thing with Wilder, they always say the power always goes last. If Zhang walks forward with a guard, Wilder will punch through that guard and knock out JD Zhang 100%. I think Zhang will be dangerous early. He'll probably be winning the early rounds, but he'll get to around 6, round 7, round 8. He'll be gas tired, and I can see Wilder taking him out. And like I say, I think that's a good fight for Wilder because I've said it in the previous videos. Wilder's not done in terms of getting big fights. All he needs is a marquee statement victory against a top five heavyweight, whether that's Andrew Ruiz, whether that's Zhang. And those type of styles will suit him. They're in front of him. If he knocks out Zhang in 5 rounds, you can't tell me that the interest in Wilder's not back. Of course it is. So if I'm Wilder, I'm gonna take that fight straight away, to be honest with you. I think it's a very winnable fight, but it's also dangerous for the early rounds. But Wilder's light enough to evade Zhang, should be long enough to evade Zhang, but we'll see. I think it's a good fight though, but I'll be picking Wilder by knockout. What about you?
I actually can see Wilder winning that fight. In all honesty, I think that Deontay Wilder has the. I was going to say the speed. If he can get that speed back, then I think that he could probably catch a kind of lousy Zhili Zhang. Zhili Zhang with his high guard up, as you said, punching through the guard, or Zhili Zhang kind of just like caught in no man's land with regards to getting caught. Sometimes like he's stationary, and this is
You
the problem.
very,
He's very
yeah, yeah.
stationary. So I think that he can potentially do that if he gets on his bike. But at the same time, I also think that if Zhili Zhang punches Deontay Wilder, I just have a feeling Wilder may not even get up. I don't know.
Yeah. I
Um,
can definitely agree with that. Like you said, Jimmy Zhang's a puncher in the truest form. Like his power's crazy. He didn't even hit Parker with fully fledged shots and he went
nah,
down. So if he tags Wilder, he's Wilder's definitely gonna get hurt. But I can't see I can't see him landing for the first five. Honestly, I feel like Wilder's too fleet of foot for that. And he'll get to round five, round six. Zhang's still there, tired as usual. Then Wilder will knock him out.
yeah, I can see that happening. I can definitely see that unfolding. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting for sure. I want to talk about Dillian Whyte versus Christian Hammer. Did you manage to see that fight? Because
Yeah, I watched the fight. I think Dylan White posted the full fight. Not
yeah,
impressed at all. Looks sluggish, looks slow, looks very beatable. And to be honest with you, I'll be picking every top 15 to beat Dylan White, to be honest with you. And that includes someone like Otto Wallin. That includes someone like a Daniel Dubois. That includes people like Bacoli, who I don't actually rate. I don't really rate Martin Bacoli. I just think he's fresher than Dylan White. I think Dylan White is extremely beatable. And I can see a promoter using Dylan White as a stepping stone for their younger fighters. Whether that's Dubois versus Dylan White, whether that's Jared Anderson versus Dylan White, whether that's even a Jagba versus Dylan White. I can just see a promoter using Dylan White because he's still got name value. Like although he's been beaten, he's actually only on paper being beaten by elite fighters. So he's still got that marquee name, if you want. So
yeah.
yeah, I think Dylan White looks shocking, looks fat, looks slow, even got hurt a little bit. Just yeah. Wasn't impressed at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because it was. I noticed that left hook in the first round from Christian Hammer actually rocked Dillian White in the first round. So I did see that, and Christian Hammer's not the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division. So I think that Dillian White's punch resistance is probably an all-time low right now. Um, I think that I'm not saying Dillian White was doing anything because I don't want lawsuits on me. I don't want to be ended up in court. But if you know, let's just say this. Let's just put it like this: Dillian White looks flat. And Dillian White also he's never looked athletic. He looks flatter than he used to look. Um, he has a good boxing mind. I can see that in his game.
Exactly.
Um, but he doesn't have the tools. I was gonna say if he worked on being less argumentative and all this stuff, and he's quite a passionate character, but if he kind of made himself, I don't want to say robotic, a bit more I don't know what the word is, but a bit more calmer, he'd make a good coach. Because he has a great boxing mind.
I was gonna say that
Um,
I could definitely agree with you. I think Dylan White's issue is not even his boxing mind, his boxing IQ. I just think it's his body. Because I think if you gave Dylan White, let's say for example, you're building a fighter, and then you gave Dylan White an able body, he'll be a dangerous fighter because he has that boxing IQ. Even when he speaks, I listen to him. What he's speaking about in terms of boxing, he actually, it's truthful. But his body can't do it. His balance is whack. I just yeah, with Dylan White, I feel like his days are numbered as a heavyweight, and not even in a disrespectful way. But I
yeah,
think
he should
anyone
cash
able will
out,
knock him
man.
out. Yeah, hundred
He
percent.
should just cash out. If anything, he could chase that Joshua fight. I'd be a little bit worried from now. I think that could go earlier than the first time.
I think now we've done in around 3 4 rounds, if
But
that.
I think Dillian White, yeah, he's got power, so you got to give him that respect. But I think that Dillian White's days at the top are numbered. I think even if Christian Hammer had a bit more ambition, like the Christian Hammer that showed up against Luis Ortiz, might have
Or
even,
David Price.
or might have been
Yeah, yeah.
with a shot of winning at this stage. But that Christian Hammer has no appetite for battle anymore. Um, we can. Is there any other fights that you want to talk about? There's so many on my mind, but my mind's just gone blank.
I think right now, in terms of heavyweights, there's obviously Clark Woodley. We'll go more into that
Yeah,
next week as fight weeks. But I feel like I'm one of the few people that are picking Fraser Clark to win that.
yeah. I really need to have a think about that. I honestly, I feel it would be stupid to count out the Olympic bronze medalist. So much amateur experience. At some point, that's got to count for something when you're fighting Fabio Wardley.
Yeah.
Um, Fabio Wardley seems to be sort of like a Cinderella man doing what he shouldn't be able to do, but at some point the wheels have got to fall off. They have to.
Yeah,
He's not like, oh, I wish him all the best, but in my opinion, he's not going to become a world champion. So it's a question of when. When are the wheels going to fall off? And I feel like very, very much that it could be against Fabio Wardley, but time will tell. I think that Fabio Wardley, excuse me, Fraser Clark, it could be against Fraser Clark, and I think that Fraser Clark, as unspectacular as he looks, his boxing fundamentals may just do the job because
exactly.
um if you look at Joshua Ngannou, I know it's a different story, but it was fundamentals that got Ngannou not like dropped for the first time in the fight, and then obviously that was kind of the beginning of the end, wasn't it? So it was just boxing fundamentals. Like Joshua was just doing his thing. He was warming into the fight, and like that was like a nothing shot, like that kind of was just there. Like he threw it because it was there, but it wasn't like he put his whole heart and soul into that punch. He was just boxing,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
but and that just goes to show you shouldn't be in a boxing ring unless you can box because it's dangerous. Like he was just getting into his rhythm and flow. There was no evil intent in that punch that Joshua threw in the first round. When he dropped Ngannou, he was just boxing. But because Ngannou can't box, he was vulnerable. So I
Yeah.
feel like against Fabio Wally, at some point that's just going to happen. He's going to be there trying to do his thing, and he's just going to walk into something big because he lacks the experience, and that very well may be against Fraser Clark. Um, I don't know if there's anything else that is sort of worth talking about. You want to like briefly mention Rosansky versus Okoli?
Yeah, not really interested in that fight, mainly because I don't really have a lot of time for Cody. Not in a personal way, but just in terms of his fighting style, I just very boring. But he should beat Rosansky's point of view. Rosansky's been hurt by Artur Spilko of all people. Should be an easy enough fight, but we'll see. We'll see what Okoli's like. It's not like Okoli got battered against Billam Smith. It's not like he took punishment, so he should be relatively fresh. But I see why they're going up to Bridgerweight to call himself a two-weight world champion. But I think if Okoli did go to heavyweight, I think he would get hurt and hurt early by someone that's British level, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't see Okoli doing so well at heavyweight because his main attribute at cruiserweight is that physical strength, and that's going to get nullified at heavyweight. I think that Okoli is, doing a good thing by fighting Rosansky because he can always say he's a two-weight world champion
Yeah,
for
yeah.
what it's worth. Um, but realistically, I don't see. I think that's a fascinating fight just for the fact that I want to see if Rosansky can get, Okoli out of there with his punch
Yeah,
power
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
Okoli's never had the best whiskers and Rosansky will bring it, so it'll be interesting. I'm thinking also just before we go, Huey Fury, the return of Huey Fury. What are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I didn't even know he was coming back. But Hugh Fury's a capable heavyweight. Don't think he punches hard enough for the top echelon, but I do think he's fringe world level. Like I think he's too good for European, not good enough for world level. Like if he fought Dylan White tomorrow, he would box White's ears off. Someone like that. So I think Huey Fury is in terms of the who needs in club because the British champs won't fight him because it's too risky, but the world champions won't fight him because they won't get credit. So with Huey Fury, you just have to work up the rankings, try and get a Mando shot because no one's going to give you a voluntary shot.
Yeah. And just a very quick question. Do you think Huey Fury's got worse since his performance against Joseph Parker?
No, I can't say worse, but he hasn't got better. He hasn't improved. So I'm not going to say worse, but I'm not going to say he's got any better. I think he just stayed the same. I haven't really seen a lot of him, to be honest with you. Yeah, like obviously against Povetkin he lost. Against who else did he lose to? Pulev. He, he hasn't got better. He just hasn't got. Yeah, I don't know. We need to see him against someone live. Like I wouldn't mind seeing him against the Brit, but I think he's too good for British. So someone like a Dubois, I think Dubois would beat him, but it'll be interesting if Fury Fury still got him. We need to see what he's like.
Yeah, those two sparred apparently, and Dubois knocked out Huey Fury apparently.
Damn.
Um, yeah, that's the rumor mill. Um, Sparring rumors that Fury not got knocked out. Huey Fury got knocked out by Dubois, and then Tyson Fury was there, and he got in the ring and said he wanted to spar Dubois after that. That's the rumor. So I don't know how true that is. But yeah, so I think that'll be it for now, unless you have anything else you kind of want to cover.
Nah, I haven't got anything. We're gonna do an in-depth video next week on Wardy versus Clark and all the undercards. So, guys, make sure you stay tuned for that. But from me, I think that's everything for now.
Yeah, or make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Make sure you hit that notification button so you get notifications when we come out with new content. Keep checking here because we're going to be bringing out that content. It's going to be coming straight to you. It's going to be fast. It's going to be good, and we got some real stuff coming up very, very shortly. So, with that, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one.